In this video, we're breaking down 2 moments of gameplay from HCS Anaheim. The first one is already playing on screen. It's an oddball game between FaZe and Fnatic, and later we'll be looking at Slayer from the perspective of OpTic. As you can probably tell, this is a long video, and we are covering many concepts, from advanced jumps and slides to aim fundamentals, spawn control, teamwork, and strategy. Many of these concepts I'll introduce in the first breakdown and dive even deeper in the second one. So I've organized all the most important moments in the play bar if you feel the need to jump around. I do my best to make these discussions approachable for anyone, so regardless of whether you're new to the game or if you play at a high level, or heck, if you're a Halo fan who stopped playing because you're disappointed in the lack of content and updates in this game, and trust, I understand. I think despite all of that, there's a lot you can learn or even enjoy watching this video. And if you do enjoy it, then like the video, hit the sub button, join me on the way. I'd appreciate it. That said, let's break down some Halo. Solid opening strat from FaZe here, and a lot you can take away from this, but first things first, what's the split? Where do they send their numbers? Snipe Down went top mid to contest the Sniper, Bound through bottom mid to contest the Heat Wave, and then BEAVER and Foul are working together on the right-hand side to provide support and also just move as fast as possible. BEAVER hits 2 curb slides back-to-back for one of the fastest possible starts in the right lane, and you see how quickly he gets his reticle placed onto Envor to suppress him. Couple clarifying notes before we start. This says Falcated behind me. That is not true. This is BooBoo's POV. Don't let that confuse you. Also, this first slide looks very unusual, and that is because Halo Infinite's spectator client. This gameplay is on Halo Infinite's built-in spectator, and it's not always accurate. Sometimes shots don't register where they should, or slides look a little funky, or sometimes reloads come out with no animation whatsoever. So it is what it is. We're just going to make do. With that out of the way, timing is everything on these opening strats. If you want to move quick like BooBoo and Foul did here, you need to start incorporating these curb slides. And this first one requires a precise lineup. Notice how both BooBoo and Foul are sprinting parallel along the edge of the ledge before last second turning off, perfectly timing the crouch to then slide and boost out. This is important. You need to make sure you sprint parallel with this ledge to make this curb slide work, because the ledge is so tall here. After he slides out, it perfectly sets him up for this second ledge on the floor. He then does the same process, sprints out over top of it, perfectly times crouch as he comes off. That'll boost him out, and then he jumps to carry the momentum. Couple general rules of thumb for curb sliding. If you slide too early, your Spartan will hitch up and go nowhere. If you slide too late, then your Spartan will get a normal slide. If you time it perfectly, you're going to launch out. Depending on how perfect that timing is, you can launch very far and very fast, and that all just comes down to your timing and your position relative to the wall. But this applies for all curb slides. And sorry, just to clarify, what I mean to say is there's a successful timing that will let you boost, and there's a sweet spot timing that will let you boost even further. Of course, you can't time something perfect and then more perfect, but anyway, you get the point. There is at least 3 different ways to launch out very quickly from this position. BooBoo is displaying one, Foul with another. He just hits a fast version of this slide, and then he jumps, and that carries him out pretty damn far, even without hitting the second slide here, though BooBoo does catch up. After he hits the second slide, he'll catch up to him. But even just hitting the one slide with the jump is very powerful. What Foul could also do is slide from the first ledge and then slide a second time off the box on the right-hand side, and this will launch him right beside the OS podium. Very, very fast strat, maybe unnecessarily fast. Also, alternatively, you could slide on the left-hand side of the scoreboard if your objective is to go bottom mid instead. And of course, the advantage they gain from doing all this is a small window of extra time they can use to prepare themselves for the fight with Envor on Tower 1. BooBoo crouch jumps up to the podium, skips the clamber, reticle placed, he's ready for the fight. He knows this is a priority angle. There's only so many options they have to get to mid off spawn. This is the earliest, most available one. There's the tower jump up as well, but that would be slower. So this is the priority. And because of their extra time, notice how BooBoo does not pre-nade first. Both him and Foul are just focused on shooting. They know they got first shot here, so they can just suppressed. When Envor backs down, then he throws the nade. And his objective isn't to kill with the nade. His objective is to buy himself a couple extra seconds of time to focus all of his attention in the mid lane. Nades out mid, double team Super CC. Super CC now dead. Bound picked up Heat Wave. He's going to fly in, help kill Envor. He immediately snaps to Envor, by the way, as well. Jazero dies. 3 dead already. Septify last up. He'll trade with BooBoo. Or BooBoo will die, and then Septify will die shortly after. The point is, it's a 3v1 now. They have a numbers advantage. Snipe Down has the snipe. Foul immediately recognizing the opening here. He goes to bottom mid, collects the ball, so there's no wasted time. Bound going to go back up to top mid, snipe up top tower. They already have a setup. they're ready to go. With Fnatic down and FaZe setting up, the most important thing for them to keep in mind is where Fnatic is going to spawn. And spawns are interesting here. You got Super CC spawning bottom nest shortly after Jazero spawns beside the B stronghold. And then you have Envor spawning in A. So they basically split spawn around the outer perimeter from B to A. Now, spawn knowledge 101. In case you're not aware, in Slayer, Strongholds, and Oddball, spawners can spawn anywhere in the outer perimeter of the map. Almost anywhere. They can't spawn in important power positions. They can't spawn beside power weapons. So, for example, you can't spawn in top tower, like where Snipedown is currently standing. An easy way to think of it, by the way, shout out to Coach Callous on G2, who once upon a time told me it was like a pizza crust, which is how spawns work, basically, and appetizing at the same time. And the other thing to keep in mind is that the spawn system in this game will always prioritize safety over everything else. So what I mean by that is it will always attempt to spawn your opponents as far away as possible from you and your teammates, and any kind of action like grenades, gunfire, sightlines, all of that can impact where the enemy spawns. Classic Halo games had some element of this as well, but in classic Halo games, there was a higher priority on teammate proximity. It would attempt to also spawn you nearer your teammates, which wasn't always the safest place to spawn them. In Halo Infinite, teammate proximity is a very low priority, and I think this is a perfect example. Envor, Jazero, Super CC, they all spawned separated. So I think the biggest takeaway from here is to know that because of the position of Snipedown and his team, you got Snipedown here, bound top mid, Foul below him, and then Boo Boo on the left-hand lane. The open spawn area on this map is anywhere from where Super CC is, B side, over to A. This is all potential open spawn, and all something that Snipedown should be considering in the back of his head as he's lining up shots on top snipe. And obviously, Snipedown and FaZe are pro players, so they know this. Snipedown is going to back up. He checks B side for a split spawner, doesn't see anybody. Notice that Super CC is already flanking down bottom tower. Now, Snipedown, he can listen for this, but it's not his job to worry about it. This is Falcated's job. Falcated, as the ball holder here, despite collecting time, needs to be flexible, needs to be aware of where his teammates are looking, and especially where they're not looking, and watching for this flank. And conveniently, he is. He'll get a kill in just a bit. This gives Snipedown the freedom to isolate an angle and help bound on A here, and Snipedown isolates this angle perfectly by walking and positioning himself in a great spot. He puts himself behind the pillar on his left-hand side, which cuts the sight line from OS, gives him a free angle, so all he has to do is focus on the player coming out from A. He places his reticle to do it, doesn't know where exactly he's going to challenge from, but this placement is convenient enough that he can snap and hit the shot, switches to BR, kills him. Spectator mode does not do that justice, but he immediately repositions. Notice in the feed, Falcated gets a kill onto Super CC. This reposition from Snipedown, so smart. He knows that Envor will call out top tower, and he knows that the remaining opponents will likely check top tower to see if he's there. Snipedown repositioning keeps his spot ambiguous, gives him timing to snap and line up a second shot for the double kill. So beautiful out of Snipedown. They got coverage on the camo, and they're working together here. One extra note here, by the way, after Snipedown gets this double, Boo Boo gets a very interesting spawn that goes against my theory on the spawn system that I just brought up. Notice he spawns beside the dummies in this open field, and almost immediately in a gunfight with Jazero and Super CC, he's basically in their sight line. Now, despite being a good distance away from them, if the spawn system was prioritizing safety, he shouldn't have spawned here. He should have spawned back tower behind Snipedown, where it's clearly safer. So I'm curious to know what you guys think in the comments. I'll just open it up to any theories you might have on why Boo Boo spawned here. Maybe sightlines don't have as much of a priority as I thought. Maybe the spawn system is inconsistent. I wouldn't be surprised if there are inconsistencies. Maybe certain areas of maps have a higher priority weighting than other areas of maps. I don't know. I'm curious to know what you guys think. Obviously, I don't know everything there is to know about the spawn system. I can't. I wasn't a developer. But Boo Boo spawning here, what I will say, is a convenient opportunity for him that unfortunately he missed by dying. Notice he tries to take a fight, tries to escape, gets melted immediately. Had Boo Boo immediately off a spawn, recognized Snipedown's behind him with a sniper, if his focus was to just stay alive and rotate to the plasmas, he could have lived and milked his life and baited Snipedown to pick up an easy kill with the sniper. Instead, because he dies, Snipedown is now alone to take this angle, gets descoped immediately. It's way harder for him to hit the shot. So something to keep in mind. If you're Boo Boo in this situation, you got a sniper behind you, bait for your sniper. Give him an opportunity to line up an easy shot, because now Snipedown is compromised. He tries to escape. He'll try to hit the skill jump to top tower. Unfortunately, he misses it, and now Fnatic are on the collapse. Going for this jump in this situation is a great idea, and he would have made a quick escape had he hit it. His only other options in this situation is to book it and run, where he would definitely die. Try to get behind the pillar and milk his life, probably would die this way too. Or he could try to jump clamber to the sneaky ledge above and sit up there and crouch, and they would see him up there, but the position might buy him a small window of time to hit a no-scope and make a sick play. But despite all of that, the best play, the most effective play is what he did here. Tried to hit the jump, and he missed this jump. Notice he bumped his head on the roof or the bottom of the staircase, and there's two potential reasons why this happened. One is he might have jumped too early off of this panel. If you jump too early off the panel, you'll bump your head on the bottom of the staircase. By jumping later, you jump from a lower altitude and ensure you don't hit your head. Or he might not have held crouch on this jump. By holding crouch, you tuck in your head when you're doing this jump, so your head is lower, so you don't bump your head on the bottom of the staircase. So one of two of those things went wrong and caused him to miss this, and something to keep in mind if you're trying to hit it yourself. With Snipe down now dead and Bound dying shortly after, their setup is breaking. Fnatic are on the collapse here, and Falcated, the smart play that he makes right before he dies, he picks up the ball and he tosses the ball, plays it off the edge. Of course, so important to do after a setup when you know you're down numbers. Toss the ball off. Now Fnatic have to go back to center map to get to the new spawn ball, and it gives FaZe, now spawning up, time to cut them off and stop them from getting a setup of their own. So 34 points to start it, and a solid start to FaZe. It's Lucid's playground. Can they put him down in game 2? We'll see.
We're going to find out right here, right now, as game number 2 is on the way, and we have to start on board with Lucid himself. And look at the beautiful shots to start off the game, going right at Gilkey. And now the challenge on the touch, you cannot stop him. Starting things off with a double kill here in Slayer.
Starting things off with a bang, that's for sure. It is only 3-2. Things are still very close, unless Ola makes a change to it. Now 5-2. G2 Esports at a deficit and about to spawn in the middle of a pinch as well. You can see the shell formed around the map here. You've got a teammate that's trippy pushing up through pipes, and it's forcing them out into long haul. They got to make a decision, and I like the attempt, but it doesn't matter. Ola's a freaking wizard. He'll find a way to kill Gilkey there.
Ola almost walking himself into a back smack, but somehow able to turn on that player, gets the kill. Now goes in for the challenge onto long haul, almost able to get the second one.
This opening start from Lucid is very simple, but actually very well thought out. You'll notice right off the rip, G2 are already pre-nading Whirlpool. They're already tossing nades into this section of the map, which makes sense. At least one player will typically fly into this section of the map to start the game, and there's several ways they could do this as well. Pardon me as I get kind of nerdy here for a second, but Lucid, for example, could have hit a curb slide at a diagonal at either the top or the bottom of this ramp. That would have launched him straight into Whirlpool. Even off the bottom of elevator, you can slide off it and launch in as well. Note that with the bottom of that platform, there's a lip on the edge of it that will prop you up and kill your downward momentum before sliding, and you need that downward momentum for this mechanic to work at all. So there's a trick with that ledge. There's one of 3 ways to do it. You can either sprint and turn on a diagonal and run parallel with the ledge to level out your Spartan, kind of like on live fire, and then give yourself an opportunity to slide and launch out, or you can sprint and stop and walk over the lip to level out the Spartan and then sprint, slide out. Formal actually does this really well. He hits it very consistently. Or the third way, and this is something that I do, is you want to kind of sprint and push your Spartan into one of the elevator poles, and that'll level you out, and then you sprint off and time the slide to slide out that way. The point is, though, regardless of what he did to fly to this location of the map, all of those options would have killed him in this situation. As powerful as curb sliding might be to launch you around the map quickly, it can also be very predictable. And it's also a big commitment. If you hit it, you can't just back out halfway through. And that's the skill gap, right? It's not just about whether or not you can hit the slide. It's about how you're using it to your advantage, despite the obvious risks associated. That's what makes it so interesting. Anyway, Lucid's very simple strat here is so effective because he doesn't have to worry about taking any nade damage, just jumps in. Watch how early he places his reticle too. He scopes in advance, a couple adjustments to bring it up, and then snaps right onto the doorway. So he's ready for a fight if somebody was to be there. You can see Gilkey already kind of ahead of him. Gilkey likely hit a curb slide of his own off the white box in the starting hallway to launch to the opposite end of this door. So that might have given him a slight advantage here too. But Gilkey does not last long here, and that's because of a more important factor in Halo, their team setup and their team cross as well. It's hard to tell from this POV, but these two icons, that's APG and Ola. They're both playing through the top door, and they're slow playing. Their focus is to cross, do damage, and draw attention to themselves. You got Trippy down low just to contest the camo as well. This is so helpful for Lucid because it takes Gilkey's attention. It gives Lucid free access to first shot, and when this man gets first shot, he does not miss. Biggest takeaway here is just how he uses his left stick to hit his shots in this situation. Something so important in Halo, your left stick typically leads. I find the right stick is kind of the opener and the closer to the fight, but for the most part, your right stick is stability in your aim. Your left stick is the primary aim factor. Once you've got your reticle snapped on, it's his strafe that's keeping his aim kind of locked in place, and his right stick is just tiny little micro adjustments for stability, and for the final shot, you can see he raises it up to hit the headshot, but he's matching the strafe of Gilkey after he locks on, and it makes this process so much easier, and he does the same thing here, a couple pre-nades in. Once he's locked in, you can see his strafe with Tusk as they kind of move together, even with the jump, to keep that shot trained on his opponent. There's no overuse of the right stick. He's using that right stick just as little as possible to stabilize his aim, essentially. These nades here also, just think of the opening that Lucid created to take this 1v1 with Tusk by tossing those bank nades. Throwing those two nades at jump up, he's not expecting to get a kill. It would be convenient if he did, but he's just using them to deny Straight Sick, in this case, from getting at a bottom mid and getting involved in this fight, which is so beautiful. It gives him the timing to take a 1v1 with Tusk, and then he wins it. Sabu's up above, does get the kill. Trippy died earlier. Trippy ends up spawning in Attic. Remember we talked about the spawn system and the fact that it tries to spawn players as far away from the action as possible. In this case, Ola and APG are still alive near A, but they're in gunfights. So it spawned Trippy opposite side of the map on Attic. Very convenient spawn. We'll talk about it. Sab, still alive, does die shortly after. Get killed by APG. Ola in a fight with Straight Sick. Straight Sick, last one up on G2. He is now dead. Ola going to stay up. We got Lucid spawning up in A, and a very important spawn control opportunity will take place. What OpTic do so well here is quickly recognize their opportunity for map control. Right now, you've got 3 dead. On G2, everybody on OpTic is up. Lucid just spawned up in A, and he realizes immediately off a spawn that he doesn't need to move. Of course, A is a very powerful spot in the map to control. You've got high ground, you've got sight lines across the map, but more importantly, in this situation, by standing here, he is blocking the spawn point of anyone nearby him. All the spawns for the enemy are blocked here. Same with Trippy. Remember, he spawned up in Attic, convenient spot. He recognized the value of that position, and instead of crossing the map to join his team, he stayed in that area. He backs up a bit, grabs the shock rifle, and then hangs out around the B stronghold, which is so valuable. By standing there, he is also blocking the spawns nearby in the back of pipes. In the meantime, you've got APG and Ola who slow play their lives through control and slowly extend out to C. They're doing this on purpose because they want to force everyone on the team to spawn in long haul. And that's exactly what happens. This situation is a best case scenario for OpTic. Everybody is spawned in long haul, and it's got to be one of the worst places on the map to spawn. Think about it. They've got terrible sight lines. They've got limited options to escape. They're in lower ground here. The only weapons that spawn in long haul are the, disruptor pistol and plasma nades. So best case scenario OpTic have created, and the next step is the collapse. And they do this with team fire and by baiting and switching. Right now, Trippy and Lucid are crossing, dealing as much damage as they can and communicating that to Ola and APG, who are waiting nearby in the wing, waiting for a chance to get aggressive. Ola, he sees that opportunity, knocks the shields off of Tusk, decides he's going to go in. I guarantee you, as he does this, he's letting APG know. APG knows the value of baiting and switching on this collapse. It is so important in Halo. The moment that Ola loses his shields, backs out, APG is there, he's getting in the fight and picking up the slack, making sure Ola stays alive. Now, G2, they almost play this perfectly. G2, they know the situation they're in. They know they have no map control. So what they need to do in this situation is to force trades. Play slow, play cheeky, just hide behind things like Gilkey does here. He almost gets a back smack, and I think Ola just hears his footsteps last second, manages to turn, get the double melee and the kill. I see what Gilkey was attempting here. He was trying to two-shot BR melee, so he doesn't melee right away. He just wants to hit the 2 full bursts. He missed some of the first burst, and unfortunately his melee doesn't get the kill because of it. So now Ola can live as he hides like clockwork. APG there to take the fight. Kills Tusk. He ends up dying to Straight Sick. Straight Sick last one up in a 1v1 with Ola, and I love everything about this fight from Ola except that last shot.
Ola almost walking himself into a back smack, but somehow able to turn on that player, gets the kill. Now goes in for the challenge onto long haul, almost able to get the second one.
This gunfight isn't anything crazy by any means, but little moments like this are why I find Halo so fun still today over other shooters, right? Like Call of Duty, this exchange would have been so damn quick. In something like Apex or other games, there's always different weapons involved or different abilities involved. Like this is just, mano a mano, BR versus BR, straight up, who can outskill, outshoot their opponent. And the little fundamentals of Halo, you gotta love how they all come in this fight. Like Ola spots straight sick, dropping down behind the box, so he places his reticle before the fight and tries to strafe out to hit that first shot. He does miss it somewhat, but it's just the setup coming into it. You can just tell by his pacing how he tried to ready himself the moment before the fight. And then when it kicks off, the kind of unwritten rule, the order of importance in Halo's combat, the fact that 90% of that fight is grounded. They rely on their strafe and their crouch. Ola weaving in a tricky strafe pattern, throwing in the crouch, keeping his strafes very tight. And then you got straight sick going for a long straight out to Ola's left. And then they save the big, heavy commitments like the jump. Straight sick saves his jump for the very end of the fight. Ola does one better. He weaves the cover strategically into the fight the moment he drops his shields and then peeks out, kind of chokes a bit on that last shot. One of two things could have gone wrong here. Could have been an accidental click of the scope, or maybe he tried to go for a confident, like quick scope finish and it just didn't work out. And this happens in Halo because both players are under so much pressure in this situation. And that pressure builds up to that final headshot because of the time to kill. So I don't know. It's such a simple moment, but moments like this are what makes Halo so unique and so interesting, in my opinion. And what's even more interesting is the impact that 1v1 just had on the game. Straight Sick just went huge, winning that fight. By killing Ola, he just removed OpTic from this section of the map, allowing his teammates to spawn nearby on C. G2 now have an opportunity to work together to regain map control. So he just slowed down what could have been a much larger snowball out of OpTic. He recognizes Tusk and Sab are together as a pair on C, so decides to go right through Long Haul and join Gilkey, who is currently solo playing his way up through pipes. This way, they can work in twos, in pairs, and try to regain the map. Now, one thing I notice, by the way, he's standing on top of these computer screens, and then notice how he sprint slides off of it. Now, I'm not sure if he was attempting a curb slide here, but just in case, there is a useful curb slide in this section of the map that not many people know, and I've never seen anyone make a play with it. So give it a shot. See if you can. If you're standing on these screens and you precisely sprint slide off, you can launch yourself straight into Long Haul. You can chain that into a second slide off the box and throw yourself right out the door for a fast rotate. This could definitely have its uses. You can go beyond that too. You can slide and then pull back on the stick and kind of halt your momentum right before you leave the door, land on the box directly, and then immediately slide off that for an even faster rotate. So once again, it's not that you have to know how to do this, but this is another interesting example of how the mechanics could maybe be used to your advantage depending on the situation. Like imagine if somebody is nearby, you might be able to use that slide for a sick outplay or a back smack or to get out of gunfire. Whatever it is, it's just understanding the mechanic and how to execute it depending on the situation. And notice my reticle placement while I'm practicing this as well. I'm checking all the different important angles that you would have to check while you're flying at this speed. It's not just about knowing how to slide. You have to go through the motions and imagine you're in those fights so that when you're in game and you're executing, you know what to do. You're still going to hit your shots, which is such an important part of this process and the risk reward. So another good opportunity to get into training mode. Either way, Straight Sick rotates on through Long Haul to join Gilkey up in pipes. Gilkey gets a very important kill onto Trippy, who's got Shock Rifle to get rid of him. Control B, though well it happens, OpTic send their remaining three through Control together to overwhelm Tusk and Sab, and they kill them without losing any numbers. So they take back this side of the map, and basically what happens is a standoff with both teams on each side. And that's basically all I've got the energy to cover for today's video. Before we go, though, I do want to revisit the spawn discussion we had in the FaZe breakdown, because there's an interesting spawn that happens right here. Notice how you've got Ola and Lucid in Control, APG here in C. Look where Trippy spawns. Trippy spawned right here in Long Haul. This spawn is once again similar to Boo Boo spawn, back on live fire. If, for example, this was Halo 5 and the spawn system was prioritizing safety, Trippy would not have spawned here near Straight Sick, who's up in Attic. He would have spawned behind APG, where it's clearly safer. The thing is, though, in this situation, Trippy spawn isn't that bad, right? The ultimate objective for map control in Halo is to secure a strong perimeter. Trippy spawning here in this situation just gave the team a wider perimeter immediately. Trippy might have wanted to go here to begin with, but by spawning here, that could now speed up the game. He could collapse even earlier on the enemy team if he wants to. So this has made me kind of rethink my whole theory on the spawn system. I don't think that safety is the only primary weighting in the spawn system. I think that the spawn system is also trying to spawn you in a position that it thinks will complement your team. The spawn system is basically trying to help you bounce back in the game by giving you map control. And this is something I've never seen with spawns in Halo before, so I wanted a second opinion. I talked to G2 Callous once again, and not only did he agree with me, he gave me a great example of something that he noticed in Streets Stronghold. So I'll try to display some footage of this for you, but imagine in Streets you are on the A Stronghold, and the enemy is rotating from C to B, they take over B, and they kill some of your team in the process. Now, you in this situation basically have two options. You could either try to headbutt B and defend A, or you could try to out-rotate the enemy by running through alley to get to C. Now, because of this new feature in Infinite Spawns, what tends to happen is as you start running through alley, your teammates will start spawning in front of you at the spike nades, and in some cases, even in the back of C. So basically, in this situation, instead of your teammates spawning safely behind you in back A or in cafe, the game just basically instantly rotated for you. You now no longer have to keep running to C. Your teammate can immediately start capping C, and you can just worry about defending A or being a middle player in that situation, essentially speeding the game up and giving you back the map out of a deficit. So I'm not sure if I like this personally. Typically, a perimeter is earned and not given, but let me know what you think in the comments. Is this fair? I don't know if it's consistent. I'm not sure if this is an intentional mechanic in the game. I do know that pro teams are starting to catch on though, and they're trying to find ways to use this to their advantage. Note that it doesn't always help you. It can hurt you, like the Boo example. Boo spawning in that position spawned them basically into a gunfight, even though the game in that moment might have thought that it was a complimentary spawn that might have given them map control. It led to his death, so it doesn't always help. And there are also just inconsistencies and unknown variables, I think, with the spawn system that we can't know yet. So overall, it's just really interesting, and I'm curious to know what you guys think. And that is it for today's breakdown. If you're interested, by the way, I recommend you watch the rest of that Recharge game. I've linked it in the description. Because the pacing of the game is so slow, it's kind of easier to see how these teams break each other's setups by sort of baiting around their teammates' crossfire, if that makes sense. It's interesting if you're into nerdy stuff like that, which I figure you are if you've made it this far in the video. Obviously, I know it's a tough time for Halo right now. This game launched with a lot of excitement, and then since we've got like no updates, no content, so understandably, you guys are upset. I'm not happy about it either. I hate waiting for this stuff. There's a lot about this game I think needs to be fixed and updated, worked on, that just hasn't been yet, and I'm just hoping that things get rolling and we finally get there. So I'm with you on that. None of this helps me or my motivation. Just, you know, understand. I do want to talk about this stuff too. I know they had the blog post recently with a couple big updates, so that might be something I'll touch on. And just, I'd like to share my thoughts on the state of the game as well. Just generally with my content, I try to focus on the things that I enjoy about Halo, and that's why I tend to take a positive stance. It's hard to find the energy to talk about stuff that I'm upset about in the same way. And that's the thing with these breakdowns, that despite the many issues with this game and just all the BS we've been experiencing, under that is gameplay with a ton of potential. And I hope that these breakdowns kind of bring that to light. I hope that you guys gain something from it, and hopefully we do get the updates we need, or else we're never going to actually achieve that potential. So we'll see. But for now, thanks for watching. Hit sub if you haven't done so. Check out related content, and I'll see you next time.